Hey everyone, welcome back to another monthly edition of me ranking everything that I watched in the previous month. There's no snappy title to it. Monthly movie ranking. If you aren't aware, I do this every month, and it's essentially ranking every movie I watched for the first time in the previous month. So not necessarily every movie I watched. Sometimes there's rewatches in there. But they're not included because it's all just fresh for me. So it could be a movie that did come out in 2025. It could be a movie from 1980. It doesn't matter as long as I haven't seen it before. It's new to me. And essentially with this series, I don't talk about any spoilers or anything because I want you to be able to watch any installment without being worried about that. And because you don't know what movies are to come. I always put 4 in the thumbnail, but who knows what else. I've been trying to keep myself to watching at least 10 movies a month now as my goal, just to at least have 10 for this ranking, and also keep myself diligent in watching movies. I've been more into movies than ever before. I've just been loving watching new movies. I'm always down to watch anything, really. So without further ado, there's 12 movies here, and I'm going to go from 12 to 1, just like that. Number 12, The Lost Children. This is a documentary from 2024. Which I guess I'm probably a little more down on than most people that I've seen. I mean, it's not a super popular documentary that everybody talks about, but just from the little couple of reviews I saw on there, it's I think it's on Netflix. I think I just saw it on the front page of Netflix at one point, and that's what intrigued me by it. The story, what intrigued me is it's about these children that go missing. There's a plane crash, and there's 4 indigenous children that are missing in the Amazon, and it's all about the journey to find them. Now, when I heard the description, I thought it was going to be more so from like the children's perspective, because like the documentary is, the question isn't like will we find the children. It's like it's the whole pitch of the documentary is the children do get found and they survive for, I forget how long it was. It was an extensive amount of time that they just survived out there, these children on their own. And I thought that was pretty remarkable. And it made weird decisions in what it focused on, as far as I'm concerned. It's understandable that they wouldn't want to make it vividly about the children's memories of the time. It could be very traumatic to relive and everything. But that was like the most fascinating part about this concept is, wow, it's impressive that the children managed to survive that long, and you only get a tiny little snapshot of their experience. Otherwise, it's just kind of like the guy searching for the children and how everybody's coming together, which is cool. But it kind of takes some weird deviations, which I don't think really is very compelling compared to the story we have here, which is an amazing survival story. So I would have loved to see more from that angle and more about the children and how impressive that is, rather than like just these guys finding them and how they're feeling about it. And there's just some weird side tangents that come into it that I think take away from it. It's not my favorite documentary I've watched. Number 11, Happy Gilmore 2. Now look, it's down here quite a bit in the rankings. I didn't hate this movie or anything, but I just think objectively, when it comes to quality, it's not a great movie. Like, I enjoyed Happy Gilmore. The original has a certain vibe to it where it's very obviously very unserious, and but I wouldn't necessarily call it like an amazing film or anything. I'd just say that's like a fun, silly movie. And so this movie does have more of that in this sequel, and it's cool because it's so much self-referential. There's tons of throwbacks to the original. That's like the large majority of this movie. And where the problem comes in is the large majority of this movie is not only self-referential, making jokes at the original, which is cool. Like, it's nostalgia's fun sometimes, but it's not really, it doesn't stand on its own too much. But also on top of that, it's just a ton of cameos for cameo's sake, really. Every scene, there's new cameos. One of the Kelsey brothers is in there, Eminem's in there. Like, it's just excessive. the fun nods to the original are nice, and they're needed for something that has like a legacy like this. They're coming back decades later. That makes sense. But almost the whole movie's identity is about that. It's just over the top and silly. I get that, like I said, the original is not something you really take seriously either. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, horrible film. It's not up to my standards. But it's just not an amazing film. I'll say that. Number 10, Captain America, Brave New World. Now, I was kind of torn between this one and Happy Gilmore 2. There's arguments for both. Like, I didn't hate Captain America, Brave New World. My expectations were very low coming into this because this was a movie that came out very early in the year. And I've heard the reputation, which was pretty negative or meh at the very least. And having just watched a couple of superhero movies, I wanted to get that one in here too, just so I could mark off all the superhero movies for the year so far. So, nothing remarkable. I think that's the biggest crime this movie commits, is it's pretty unremarkable, pretty forgettable. I don't think people will be thinking about this movie too much, even a couple years from now. It's just not going to stand the test of time. But I did enjoy elements of it. Harrison Ford was fun to see in this role, honestly, and that's most of what I take away from it. But the whole resolution with it is not very satisfying, and so it's like we built up these storylines and like subplots within this movie that ultimately don't get resolved in the most satisfying way. And so it just ends up with a meh. And one of the biggest promotional things about this movie is very minimally present here, which is crazy. Number 9, Trainwreck, Poop Cruise. Now, this is one I'd seen on Netflix all the time. I was like, okay, this is some stupid documentary. Literally, the name of a movie is Poop Cruise. You know, you're not in for like the, highest order here. But I didn't know that Trainwreck was actually a series of movies or documentaries they're putting out on Netflix. They put out several of them on different topics, a wide range of topics. But this one's about the poop cruise, which I had actually never heard of before this. But it was apparently a big incident on where a cruise ship ended up stranded out in the ocean without power for longer than they expected, and as such they ran low on resources, and then the plumbing started getting backed up. So that was the whole incident there. I thought it was like an okay documentary. It gave exactly what I expected. I expected a stupid documentary about a poop cruise, and that's what it got. But at the same time, its approach is a little too snappy and flashy for me. It's like fast cuts and all that, like really trying to keep your attention kind of thing. And at the end of the day, it is funny that this is like the subject of a documentary and people are talking about like how horrible it is, when really it's like they were going on a cruise, and everybody was all right by the end of it. It's not the end of the world. It's not the most incredible thing in the world to have a documentary about. I literally just talked about how children survived for days on end in the Amazon, weeks and weeks on end in the Amazon, and then we have a documentary about a cruise gone wrong. There's different levels of tragedy here, that's for sure, but ultimately just okay and not much more than that. Number 8, How to Train Your Dragon 2025. This is one I mentioned last month. I was really trying, and if everything went my way and some unexpected things didn't come up, I would have had this finished last month, just to have it with the other original trilogy of How to Train Your Dragons that I watched for the first time last month. Now, I actually don't have any major qualms with this movie. And also, it being a number 8 isn't like, oh, we're in the bad area. I'd say The next several are very interchangeable. It's tough actually deciding what order to be. How to Train Your Dragon always had kind of firmly below them because, well, I don't have any issues with the film. I do think it is largely a shot-for-shot remake of the original movie, and on principle, I'm kind of against the idea of us pretending like an animated movie isn't enough, like it's somehow subpar. We need to make it live action, even if we're not making barely any changes, very very minimal changes in like some of the writing, and that's about it. But barely any changes, and just the fact that it's live action should elevate it. I don't think that's the case. I think it was cool to see him live action, but at the same time, again, there's the irony of Toothless obviously is not live action. Toothless is still animated, CGI, and he looks almost the same as the animated version of Toothless in the original movies. So it's kind of funny when you think about the biggest crime that this movie commits is just not adding much to justify its existence, which is a problem I had with other Disney live action remakes of the past. This is definitely above the large majority of those, just based on quality alone. I didn't really take issue with how things were shot, how it was brought to life in on the big screen here. But again, I'm not going to put it much higher just because it doesn't do anything creative. It's obviously, by its nature, it's unoriginal, and yeah, I don't think it needed to happen. It's like the original movies are great the way they are. Number 7, Superman 2025. This is actually the first movie Superman. It's actually the first Superman movie I've ever seen. Ever. And I mean including Justice League, Batman v Superman. I didn't watch those. There was something about this one, how it was shown and how it was being talked up, that made me compelled to watch it, on top of the fact that I'm just trying to watch as many new movies as I can to keep up with the latest films. And on top of that, it was something that compelled me more about this film. I wasn't eager, like I need to watch it immediately, but when I heard relatively good things about it, then I was like, okay, then this is worth checking out for me, just to see what is going on here. I do ultimately think I enjoyed the movie. I think there's some things that aren't as compelling to me, because there's elements of the movie which I know are there and feel like they're justified because of the existence of Superman as a property, and it's assuming that there's an adoration for Superman already there that I don't really have, but I still get like certain things, how it gets fanfare, like I get that, but I don't have the personal connection to it. So that's where it holds it back a little bit for me, but overall I did enjoy it. I thought it was pretty solid. I did. Some of the cinematography was quite fun here. I thought some of it was over the top because it's like very Superman, probably just more nostalgia than anything, but for me it was a bit over the top. But I did think there was some fun cinematography here still, and it's cool just to say this is a competent superhero film, which was hard to say about DC films for quite a while. Number 6, K-Pop Demon Hunters. This is one I fluctuate a little bit on where it goes. It could go a couple spots up, a couple spots down. Not entirely sure. I think it's due, like, I need to let it settle in a little bit more. But definitely my impression when I got out was like, wow, I enjoyed that. It's certainly one of those movies where it has no business being as good as it is, that kind of thing. And literally when I first saw this movie at a glance on, like, it was just that it was on Netflix on the front page, I'm like, wow, that is very obviously some garbage, some slop that was just thrown together. Even the name that is like K-Pop Demon Hunters is like, you're clearly just going for the young audience. You just threw this together, like visually, just from the poster. I wasn't like, oh, this that looks good. And I was delightfully surprised that there was actually a competent movie here. There's some actually fun movie, and only through word of mouth did I really even think about watching this. It's pretty cheesy, and it's over the top at certain parts, but it works for the tone of the film that they have. There's a couple of really cool visual sequences. The voice acting is pretty fun. I think there's a fun cast here. It makes for a fun movie overall. Like I said, the music is actually surprisingly charming and catchy, and it actually goes on. It nails surprisingly well the different cliches that you find within K-pop music and that culture. So I thought that was pretty remarkable too. I'm a K-pop fan myself, pretty casual. It's been a while since I've been exposing myself to new music. I've always been meaning to get back into it. I have some albums here still waiting to listen to, and plenty of artists I need to dip my toes into. But yeah, I appreciated this film. Number 5, The Fantastic Four, First Steps. For the longest time, I had Superman and Fantastic Four like right there. After seeing both of them not too far apart from each other, I was like, wow, they're so comparable to me. I'm not really sure which one I had. At one point, I had Superman over it, and then it flipped. And now I think I'm more confident saying I enjoyed the Fantastic Four more. And I just think it does a better job at nailing the property as a standalone film, where it's like there's no required viewing beforehand. You don't need to be a pre-existing fan, which is ironic considering at the same time it throws you into them like where they're already existing. It's not an origin story. It throws you into their dynamic, and it does it pretty well. So that's pretty impressive in itself. It really felt like this finally did Fantastic Four as a property justice, and this is coming from someone who doesn't really know anything about the comics or anything, but it felt right to me. I think the pacing struggled a little bit. I think in the middle of the movie it was quite slow, and it took a while to really get there and hammer it home for me. And the villain is kind of not the most compelling to me, I'll say that. And I'm sure that's another thing where the villain has some notoriety from its existence in the comics and everything, but it doesn't really do anything for me, and there's not much here that makes the villain super compelling. But overall, I did enjoy it, like the dynamic, and I love the aesthetic that's present in the whole film. Stylistically is the biggest plus for me. I love that. Number 4, I like movies. Of a lot of the movies I named, this is probably the one you're least likely to know. It's an indie film that it did get some positive reception, that's for sure. It's a coming of age film, and it does it pretty dang well. I love a good coming of age film. I've watched a few just this year, and this one's pretty effective. I really didn't know where this movie was headed, and it teased a couple different concepts. It's like, I'm not sure, are we really getting into that territory or not? And I was satisfied with the conclusion and where we ended up. And on the surface, what drew me in was that it was based in an old school video store, and those vibes were very, very present here. Very, very cool. You don't really get much of a snapshot into that time period. And it's captured here with a fun little dynamic as a workplace. And then the interesting turns we go on from there. So I just think it's fun if you want to. It's worth checking out. There's some really sweet, heartfelt scenes. So if you like indie film, old school video store vibes, and just let yourself be taken where the movie takes you, by all means, it's definitely worth checking out. Number 3, Edge of Tomorrow. This is one that we actually reviewed over on Tarkaron, and it was because my friend Alec picked it out for our monthly movie night, where we alternate picking a movie for us to watch. Usually it's one that we like that we really want to show the other. And in this case, he was a big fan of Edge of Tomorrow, and I had never seen it. Honestly, as much as I heard the name, I never knew the concept, which is the perfect way to go into this movie. That's why I'm not going to spoil it on the off chance you haven't seen it. It's really fun to go in blind, and it makes the concept worth it. There's a gimmick to it, which is fun. And I will say, for me, the magic a little bit wore off after that gimmick faded into the background a bit, but it was still good. Visually, I thought the movie was way too dark towards the end. I don't know if it's a problem with how it's come out and how they put it out on streaming or what. I don't know if it was this dark in theaters, but it was a problem for me. I was almost not seeing anything at certain points, and I was just listening to them talk. But I like the concept, like what they did with that concept, and they had some creative fun when it comes to the writing and just some comical editing early on, especially Tom Cruise in a bit of a departure from what you expect from Tom Cruise and from Tom Cruise. It's a bit of a departure in ways, which is cool. Emily Blunt is great in this movie as well. So yeah, number 2, Companion, which is a movie that came out earlier this year. Without saying too much, if you've heard about this movie, you probably know or catch the vibe of what it's about. I kind of without having seen it, already got the vibe without knowing too much. And it's pretty apparent early on in the film, but at the same time, if you want to go in blind, as always, that would be a plus. But I will say, essentially, Black Mirror vibes is the biggest thing I could say about this movie. It's not the most amazing thing in the world. Some of the writing is silly at times. Some of it's a little unbelievable with certain situations. But at the same time, I enjoyed it. I thought the performances were great, especially Sophie Thatcher. I wanted to get that name. It's not a name I know very well. But Sophie Thatcher was great in it. Jack Quaid was very great to hate in it. And it's just a really, really solid Black Mirror episode is the best description I can give for it. They did some fun stuff in here. So that leaves us with number one for the month of July. It's Little Women. Little Women is a movie I've always seen on people's lists of some of their favorite movies, or I've seen it reviewed really well, and without really knowing anything about what the movie's about. The description of the movie is not that compelling. Let me just tell you the description. 4 sisters come of age in America in the aftermath of the Civil War. That's funny. The description, first of all, not very interesting. Second of all, it's another coming of age movie. I didn't even realize there's 2 in this one ranking. But yeah, it's really great. It's actually like a feel good movie. And there's a Christmas time vibe to it, so I could see it being like a Christmas movie almost. It's mostly feel good. There's some emotional moments, but mostly it's about this dynamic between these sisters and a great cast, an amazing cast of women to lead this film. You got Saoirse Ronan, who's amazing in this film. Emma Watson, Florence Pugh. These are some of the great young actresses of our time, you might say. All are really very likable in general as actresses, and that translates in their performances. I think they're great. I didn't know Timothée Chalamet was even in this until I watched, as well as a couple other roles that I was not expecting too. But the women really, they're the heart of this movie, and it's great. I liked it so much that I actually bought the book that it's based on, and it's interesting because they play off of that with the plot of the movie as well that comes into it, and I just think it's really cozy. It's a cozy movie, and costume design's great. You don't doubt for a second what time period you're in. It's really great, and I'm not surprised it's a personal favorite for a lot of people, because it does feel like I could have grown up loving this movie, and it'd be a warm, cozy movie for me. Absolutely. I love their dynamic, and it's really sweet and heartfelt movie. That's all there is really to it. It's not anything crazy. It's just that simple, and it's effective. That's it for my ranking this month, and let me know your thoughts, how you feel about where things ended up. I will say the large majority of this list, I think number 1 and 2 were pretty solid for me. But then numbers 3 to 7 those were all like I could interchange any of them, and I could probably see myself changing them if you were to ask me a month from now. But as always, the ranking is just a reason or an excuse for me to talk about all the movies I watched. Some great movies this past month, a few superhero movies, and a couple I've been meaning to watch for some time, as well as some random unexpected ones like K-Pop Demon Hunters. So let me know what you've been watching recently, any movies you'd recommend me check out. And you can follow me on Letterboxd as Zach Archer. I got a link tree with all my social links as well in the description. But yeah, been loving going through movies, and I'll be back next month for another. Thanks for watching.